Alright, welcome to our weekly update on the Australian property market, where we discuss waves, impulsive waves and corrective waves around Australia. It looks like property bubbles are popping all around us. Some have already popped a while ago and now are limping along, like Japan, Korea and Spain, waiting for another hurdle that will flatten the curve. Check out part 1 for the analysis on that and to find out what to expect in the decades to come. Other markets are looking for a pin that will end the life of this vacuous, irrational exuberance. Which scenario are we in? Well, at least we know where China is. I have a whole bunch of charts prepared for you to crunch, so if you like the content, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Again, I'm going to show you my favorite chart last. First, let's discuss the Chinese housing market, which seems to be the harbinger of all housing markets, given its notorious status of being too big, too important to fail for the Communist Party, which is shown in the amount of stimulus pumped into it to prop up consumerism in the domestic market. Well, it's all crumbling down, at least on the National Housing Index. The Zero Hedge article explains the reasons why. However, when you look at the particular cities, the house price increases are not over yet. Let's look at Shanghai first. Wave 5 started in the mid-2012 and was made of Wave 1, Wave 2 and the biggest Wave 3 ended in 2020 at the outbreak of the virus of unknown origins, which resulted in Wave 4. Now we are in the middle of the final fifth wave, probably finishing it off as we speak. I can't pinpoint the very peak as yet, but we need to pierce through the last high. Over in Beijing, the fifth wave also started in 2012. Here's Wave 1, Wave 2, Wave 3. Wave 3 surprisingly ended in July 2018. I wonder why. Right after that, they started final Wave 5, which should result in another spike up, corresponding to the final fifth wave, within the last fifth wave. I don't think we are going to get higher highs from then on. Perhaps a wave extension that will temporarily pierce through the top, but that would be a bull trap. We'll closely follow it and observe the nature of the incoming waves. There's no more growth past this point, only the ABC formations, which indicate declines. It seems that New Zealand has met the same fate. They've been pumping their housing bubble along with Australia and Canada. What a coincidence it was. When the Chinese credit impulse dissipated, New Zealand decided to regulate their housing market. Here's Wave 1, Wave 2, Wave 3, the most potent out of all of them, ended in 2008 with the global liquidity crisis, just like in Australia and Canada. Wave 4 seems to be more defined comparing to the other two markets, which clarifies my doubts about the timing of the Wave 5. These three bubbles seem to be growing in unison. How do we know the bubble is about to pop? Since the final Wave 5 is made of smaller waves, we can also count them in the same way and follow the same rules that govern the wave theory. Let's switch to the chart of New Zealand's most expensive housing market, that is Auckland, for better resolution. Here's a major Wave 5, which is made of smaller waves 1, 2, and the third ending in the fourth quarter of 2022. Then we have this perfect descending pattern corresponding to Wave 4. What happens after, you may ask? Just like in the major Australian cities, we are about to start the final fifth wave up, which is also made up of smaller 5 waves. I'm not sure whether it has already started, since we just turned the corner on the US bond yields. They are going to temporarily slide down, giving hope that interest rates are going to drop down for good. Whether it's going to change Kiwis' sentiment into a buying frenzy remains to be seen. Otherwise, we need to wait for the major drop in the US bond yields, corresponding to Wave 2, later in the year or even next year, in order to finish off the big cycle in the housing market. It means we should expect another final spike up associated with lowering interest rates. You can find a mirror reflection in a chart of Canadian housing market. Here's Wave 1, Wave 2. The third wave ended in 2008. And now it looks like we have popped the fifth wave on the National Housing Index. How do we know it has popped in the absolute numbers? It's not so clear. Just like in New Zealand, we need to look closer at the city level, as the final wave is also made of 5 distinctive waves. Let's analyze the Toronto's housing market. Here's a major wave 5, which is made of smaller waves. Wave 1, wave 2. The third wave peaked in the first quarter of 2021. Wave 4 stretched throughout 22, bottoming in January 2023. And like in China, we are progressing into wave 3 this autumn, if not wave 5 already. It means we are going to pierce through the last high of February 2022. We are definitely getting very close to the final peak of this massive bubble. There's no higher highs past this point. What's going to be left is the Japanese/Korean scenario. It seems that Canada is ahead of Australia. We are about to start a wave 5 here in the more ritzy suburbs, while they are already in the middle of the wave 5. It's interesting how all these markets are interconnected, despite the fundamentals being different, like the fact they are sitting on different continents, having different populations, different neighbors, different GDPs. What these markets have in common, though, is high migration, historically low interest rates, booming tourism, and socialist governments that splash cash on first home buyers in order to secure their deposits. How is this experiment going to end up? Given that we are at the very end of the cycle, it looks all of these markets are going to blow up in unison, which means there might be a global event that will cut the credit lines and severely damage the consumer sentiment. It remains to be seen. We truly live in historic times. In the next video, we are going to discuss European property markets, and then we'll move to the States. You don't want to miss that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Meanwhile, stay calm and count waves.